Thank you. Okay. Maybe just hang out the wall.
Marianne, can you hear me?
You ready?
Yep.
Okay, I call to order the regular Board of Education meeting on December 15, 2022 at 7:23 PM in the boardroom of Oak Park River Forest High School. We have a roll call.
Ms. Harvey? Here. Dr. Maharaj?
Here.
Mr. Arkin?
Here.
Mr. Henry?
Here.
Mr. Martiri? Ms. Harris? And Mr. Costi?
Here. I move to enter closed session for the purpose of discussing the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district and independent contractors and specific volunteers, including certain testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the district to determine its validity, and collective negotiating matters between the district and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. May I have a second?
Second.
May I have a roll call, please?
Dr. Maharaj?
Yes.
Mr. Arkin?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Ms. Harris? Ms. Spivey? Yes. And Mr. Costi?
Yes. Okay, we're moving into closed session. Should we close that or just? Fall down.
Get down! Let's go, Mr.
Anyone want to do a dance while we're waiting? Sing? Ron? You can run a place for a while.
Ready?
All right, I guess saved by the ding dong. We are returning to open session, and our first order of business is our introductory reports and student showcase. So, Dr. Dunn.
All right, so let's get started with our student showcase here. We're going to start off, I believe, with student activities. And so, that's all.
Hi, good evening. I'm Angie Hawkins, from Activities. First of all, please excuse the appearance. It was flannel day today at school, so I came dressed appropriately. Today, I would like to introduce our psychology club. So come on up and then with Miss Smithson.
Hey everyone, my name is Miss Smithson Janelle, and I am the sponsor for Psychology Club. I have Morgan Fox and Bella China here with me tonight, two of our fearless leaders. I really can't take a lot of the credit for what we do because they are the ones that keep everything together. Some of the things that we've done for the club this year is we've started to theme it out. So every month we get to have a theme to get students excited about. And so we've done some developmental psychology, the serial killers, everyone was into the serial killers. We had some memories we got to talk about and careers. And so we recently had a clinical psychologist who was the guest speaking with us, as well as a forensic psychologist, which was really awesome that students had the opportunity who were interested in psychology and potentially studying psychology to get to hear those perspectives. So next semester, we're hoping to cover topics like sleep, love, gender, abnormal psychology, and also looking for some more guest speakers. So I'm getting on LinkedIn and making some connections, right? And some of our students also have those connections, which is really lovely. And we're also hopefully planning a field trip to the Chicago School of Professional Psychology after our recent interaction with the forensic psychologist. So we are really enjoying our club this year. It's grown, so we have about 40 consistent members in the morning. And it's really a big highlight for me to sponsor. So these two want to say thanks about their favorite parts of the club.
Hello, my name is Morgan Fox, co-president of the Psychology Club with Bella. My favorite part of the club has definitely been the assurance that the club has given me that psychology is the major that I want to pursue. And it's actually been incredibly gratifying putting in work for something that, although there's no like grade value in it, there's so much just enjoyment, and it's so fun to see my peers enjoy the club, and it's fun because I get to enjoy the club. We recently did merch, and I got to organize all that and communicate with the person or the company for that, which was a great experience. And yeah, Psychology Club is awesome. Go to Psychology Club.
Hi, my name is Bella Trotter, and I love Psych Club because of the community that we've created. Like, we get to have such honest and open and real conversations, and people just get to ask questions, and that's really awesome because at school, sometimes, I feel like I can't really ask questions, but in Psych Club, like, you can just be so honest, and, like, you can learn about yourself a little bit, and I don't know, I just really love, like, how people have honest conversations.
Okay, next up, we have a lesson for our athletic showcase.
Hello, everyone. I'm not gonna excuse my appearance because we have faculty plays tonight and tomorrow night, so that's why I'm dressing. So with me tonight, I have another team that qualified for state this fall. We're kind of trying to parcel them out. So next month will be the last of our fall qualifiers, and by that time we should have some winter as well. So tonight with me, I have the boys cross country team. So Coach Baldwin is actually out sick tonight, but he did give me a recap of the season that I would like to read now before we introduce our athletes. The boys had an amazing cross-country season, the best as a team in a very long time. Our cross-country team is made up of 85 remarkable young men who have worked incredibly hard together, both as a team and as well as individuals. Their commitment, work ethic, and spirit are the reasons for the team's success. We won the Fenton Early Bird Invite, the Richard Spring Invite, and placed second in both the Naperville Twilight Invite and the conference meet. For the postseason, the team won the regional championship, placed third in the sectional and fifth in state. That is our highest finish in the state meet since 1980. We were led by Liam, who earned all state honors for his second place finish, and our highest individual finisher since 1980 as well. Our next two runners were Michael and Nick. Michael took 36th, Nick took 40th, and they were followed by Owen, who took 102nd in state, and Lewis, who took 111, and Daniel, who took 148, and Andrew, who took 207. The course was covered in mud, and we were up against cold, damp weather and winds at about 20 to 25 miles an hour. It was one of the toughest races that we've ever seen in the history of the state meet. I will concur with that statement. We are proud beyond measure of this record-setting season, these remarkable young men, and this incredible cross-country program. So at this time, I'd like to have Abel Reyes come forward to introduce our team.
Go by seniors first. So I'm number 1, number 7.
Seniors.
So let's go. Like practice. Let's get it. Say, "Why don't you make- come on, get up." Let's get up, guys. Line up. All in order. As Coach Baldwin said, this is a team of 80-something individuals, and each one of us is like a chain of young men that are young, confident, wonderful, incredible, hardworking, wonderful, dedicated, every day at practice. And when I look at these guys, for me, is rejuvenating, awesome, incredibly fun. And I've been doing it for a long time. As some guys say, it never gets old. These guys really worked hard. They had an incredible season. It started in spring, and just through the summer, they just had this mindset they're going to accomplish some incredible feats. And sure enough, they all made up their mind as a unit from number 85 to number 1. And together, they've achieved, as what our AD said, exactly that. And that's what really, really, really gives me pride, is that these kids, I see them when they're 45, 35. I'm going through maybe 4 generations now that I've been coaching here. And the only thing I see is great adults, great fathers, great human beings, and very compassionate, very loving, and very caring. It continues throughout their whole life. And I'm extremely proud of these young men and every young man that has gone through our program. Thank you very much. Liam.
My name is Liam. I'm a senior.
What did you do at state?
Oh, I got second at state. I'm Nick. I got 40th at state. I'm a senior.
Hi everyone, my name is Owen Augustine. I'm a senior and I got 102nd at state.
Excellent.
Hello, I'm Roger. I'm a senior. I just had a lot of fun being part of this team this year. Definitely the best way to round off my 4 years on the cross country program.
I'm Daniel. I'm a junior, and this cross country season was something else. I'm really proud of what our team accomplished.
Hi, I'm Michael. I'm a junior, and I got 36 this week.
Hi, I'm Lewis O'Connor. I don't know exactly what place I got. It was like around 110, but I'm also a Jew. Hi, I'm Henry, and I was happy to be an alternate on the stage.
I'm Liam, sophomore, and I was also happy to be an alternate.
I'm Andrew, I'm a sophomore, and I was 207th at the state meeting.
I'm Finn Kelly, I'm a sophomore, and I'm thrilled to be an alternate, or I was thrilled to be an alternate state.
We give a round of applause for also involved in track, and we'll see great things from them, I assume, in the spring, and even better things from them next year on our home turf, so thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa, as our student rep.
Yes,
Sure.
Jacob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to be back here. I don't have too much to report this time around. Though we have done some things as student council, the run up to winter break. We've been planning the spirit week that we just are about to finish up tomorrow, that Ms. Hawkins mentioned. She's wearing her flannel for today. And we've been doing things like playing music in the hallways between passing periods from various holidays that are occurring around this time. And a lot of students have expressed positive feedback that they enjoyed the final schedule this year. I know traditionally it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but a lot of students are very happy that it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because it extends the break a little bit for everyone. And even in my experience, I remember that Monday and Tuesday weren't providing a ton of benefit as it came with studying and all that. And my only complaint I've been hearing from students is that as we're getting the colder months, even like today, the weather was pretty bad. The north cafeteria specifically becoming a little crowded, and now we don't have the balcony to eat lunch at. So if there were any solutions for any other alternate places that students can go, now that we can't go outside. But that is also, thank you.
Thank you, Jake.
Thank you. All right, thanks for the feedback, appreciate that. And let's go over to the superintendent's announcements here, the second to last of our introductory reports. I have a few things to share. First, in January, OPRF will be sending 21 music students to All-State. This is the greatest number of music students to be invited to All-State in the history of the high school. So congratulations to that fabulous program. The Science Olympiad team brought home 4 medals from the Palatine Invitational, including first place wins in Dynamic Planet for Ezekiel Wells and William Wheeler, and in Write It, Do It for Rachel Kralik and Denon Prairie. Congratulations, kids. The speech team brought home 9 individual awards from District 211 Friend Viking Varsity Tournament, including first place medals for Olivia Lee in dramatic interpretation, Ezekiel Wells in extemporaneous speaking, and Julian Martinez in impromptu speaking. And I just want to point out, Ezekiel Wells must be a very busy dude. The Science Olympiad and speech. Congratulations for the good work. Congratulations to senior Brad Huseby and sophomore Greg Huseby, who were named Outstanding Academic All-Americans by USA Water Polo for the 21 and 22 academic year. They earned this designation by participating in USA Water Polo's Junior Olympics in July and for earning a 4.0 or higher for the academic year. Greg Huseby also was named to USA Water Polo's Cadet Olympic Development Program team. He'll represent the Midwest Zone at the East Regional Water Polo Championship in Dallas, Texas next month. English Division Head Erica Eckhart had her previously published poem, Knuckles, translated into Urdu and Spanish for the 1,000 Languages Project at Arizona State University. In addition, her piece, Kleptothermy, was published in Tampa Review's most recent issue. And finally, I want to share a letter that parent Allison Welch sent to our music department after attending last week's spectacular Prisms concert. I wanted to mention something about Prisms during my superintendent's announcements. I was thinking of this as we had community council that same evening, and we had so many members who either couldn't make it, who were down at Prisms, that we decided after just a few minutes of introductory comments to say, let's all go down and watch Prisms. And it's a special event. I got home that evening and I received this email and I thought, this is worth sharing. As I wind down for the evening, she wrote, I'm finding it difficult to stop playing and replaying in my mind the incredible musical moments from tonight's Prisms of Music concert. Wow. I remember last year when my daughter was a freshman, how incredibly blown away I was. I had no idea what to expect. This year, I did know what to expect. I knew that I would see hundreds of OPRF students from varying backgrounds, demographics, grades, and skill sets coming together as musicians and singers and creating memorable music. Yikes, was I mistaken? Yet again, and even more so, I was completely blown away, and my expectations were far, far exceeded. As my daughter and I were reflecting on the night while driving home, we talked about how with performing, it's not just about the music that is played or sung, it's how it's played or how it's sung. As musical leaders for the school, you demonstrated so clearly tonight that you inspired the best out of each and every student. The level of emotional depth in the final piece especially reflected not only their talents, but also the way in which you engage them fully in artistically feeling and sharing those talents. Thank you so much for this wonderful gift that will keep on giving, not only to the students, but to the whole community. It's a great way to encapsulate what Prisms is all about. If anybody in the community is watching now and they haven't seen Prisms, it'll go on, it's an annual tradition, and if you go, it'll blow you away too. So thank you to that program, our leaders, our teachers for that program, and all the students who did such excellent work that night. And that concludes my answers.
Thank you very much. Lisa?
7 for your requests and 4 resolved.
Thank you very much. Okay. Our next segment is employee recognition. And our employee recognition is sponsored by Oak Park Bank, a Wintrust community bank. The bank's motto is to work hard to be an asset to our community. They salute the faculty and staff of D200 and are proud to sponsor the district's employee recognition program. Danny Roselle, Assistant Branch Manager, is here to help present gifts to our December winners. So let's talk to our winners. Are they here?
Mr. Bellamy is via Zoom.
Okay.
And I don't know if
Val is out sick.
Val is out sick. Okay.
Okay, so we will start with Mr. Bellamy. So Octavius Bellamy. We would like to congratulate Octavius, who was selected as the Teacher of the Month. Can we see him?
He is on Zoom right now. We're trying to put him front and center here.
Okay, yeah, we can see a small, we want to see big.
There we go.
Perfect, thank you. Here's what people who submitted the nominations had to say. He is a good teacher and he is funny. I like how he talks about his personal experiences and encourage us. Mr. Bellamy is a real fun teacher. He makes me comfortable and happy, and history isn't boring. He's academically supportive. He's understanding. He makes sure everyone is heard. He is a teacher. He is a father figure I never had that inspires me. His energy helps me push myself to keep going. Mr. Bellamy is very respectful, funny, and relatable. He is like a working father figure to me. He is very helpful with classwork and is fun to be around. He is always supportive. He's a great teacher who is fun and includes everyone in his class. Mr. Bellamy is an incredible coworker who has made me a better educator. He is supportive of his students and creates a space where learning is imperative while also supporting the whole student. He makes teaching and learning history accessible and fun. So congratulations, Octavius. Is there anything you'd like to say?
Just want to say thank you. I mean, the kids really blew me away, surprised me. I work with Miss Smithson in the history department, and she makes it easy to actually just be myself in the classroom. She's so spectacular. But just blown away by the comments they made, the father figure comments. Well, I couldn't be there tonight. I actually had to take my little girl to practice. But definitely just honored to be a part of the Oak Park Workforce family. And thank you guys for the acknowledgement.
Thank you. And we can present, just so he can see.
We can deliver tomorrow.
Yeah, did you have a
Honorable arrangement.
we can show him that you have a gift here from the bank, so I don't know where the camera is.
Yeah.
We're trying to be.
Hold on,
There you go.
if you want to come
You
to the
have it?
podium.
We'll do it at the podium, because I just don't remember.
Yeah, why don't you come to the podium? I'll be sure.
Yeah.
Let me see my, they can see it.
Oh, thank you. I will
There
get
you
it.
go.
Thank you guys very much.
All right, and we'll do one more, just our second honoree here. So I would now like to extend congratulations to our December Employee of the Month, Valda Yarrington. Here's what people who submitted the nomination had to say. Ms. Valda always goes above and beyond to make sure that the Welcome Center is run smoothly. Every time I called her for any kind of assistance, whether it be to let her know that we have visitors coming, she is always so willing to help. Val is one of the first faces you see when you walk into our building, and she is always welcoming. There are moments where she is the first person that has to deal with some unpleasantries in the building, but she deals with them in such a professional, well-mannered way. For many of the visitors coming into the building, Val is the first point of contact and always goes above and beyond. She does a fantastic job of managing a long list of duties in her role at the Welcome Center, and she does it with a smile. She is always professional and kind. She most definitely emulates those things that are best here at OPRF. Val keeps the front desk of the Welcome Center safe at all times. Her kindness is a great asset when greeting our visitors in the building, and the students love her. So congratulations again, Valda. And she is out sick today. So we will
Make sure she can sit.
we will get her
Regions.
okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay, our next agenda item is public comment. Lisa, do we have for public comment? And I'll just introduce it before we go. Do we have
one in person?
We have one in person, okay? My brief spiel is that please limit public comment to matters concerning the jurisdiction of the Board of Education to 3 minutes. This section is not intended to be a dialogue with the board, and the board will respond to any questions within 2 weeks. So, Mr. Burns.
Good evening. I hope everyone had a nice Thanksgiving. This will be short. I just have a couple of questions for the gang tonight. First one is about, this is all about the Imagine Plan. Surprise, surprise. In 2016, there was a referendum that was defeated for a $44 million pool project. After that, the Imagine team came into being and came back 2 years later with the entire Imagine proposal, including a $65 million pool project in Project 2. And I'm just wondering why the board accepted the Imagine plan when it came back with a plan that was 50% higher than the estimate of the project that was defeated in a referendum. I don't understand it. So I would like to try to get some information on how that decision was made. And I think it's possible because 3 of the current members here were on the board that accepted the Imagine plan. And it's not a dialogue, so I'll look forward to the answer to that one in a couple of weeks. In the middle of the holiday season, sorry. The current estimate for project 2 is $100 million. The estimate for project 2 in 2018 was $65 million. It's now 50% higher than its original estimate. So the question I have is, how much money is this board willing to spend before it says, no, that's too much and we're not going to do this? And the last question I have is a question I asked last month at the board meeting. I guess I didn't ask for a response, but I am now. And that's about what board or District 200 administration is doing to try to determine potential problems in project 2, specifically problems with the soil remediation. Anything that's happening before approval of funding or approval of going forward with the project itself, because it's a real big unknown. To me, it's almost like going out driving and putting a blindfold on. You know you're going to hit something, you just don't know how bad it's going to be. And as I mentioned last month, when Berry Park had their remediation project, 1997, it was estimated to cost $10 million. It took 8 years and $100 million. Now, both of these places are in Oak Park, and I don't know what's underneath the ground, but I think you need to take a look with whatever tools there are available before you go ahead with the project. And with that, I wish you a happy holiday season and look forward to your responses. Thanks.
Thank you.
There are any more in-person public comments? I have 2 to be read into the minutes. And when we go to the public hearing, I have no public comment.
Okay, very good. So we go, let's. Here we go. Agenda. Our next order of business is the public hearing for the 2022 levy. So at 8:00 p.m., I call this public hearing to order on Thursday, December 15, 2022, for the Oak Park River Forest High School 2022 tax levy. Notice of this hearing appeared in the December 7th, 2022 edition of the Wednesday Journal. At this time, I ask for any written or oral comments to be received.
I have one via Zoom, Ms. Monica Sheehan.
Okay.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Monica Sheehan, and before I begin, I just want to say congratulations to the boys cross country team and to their great coaches, Coach Reyes and Coach Baldwin, and the team on their amazing season. My son was a 4-year cross-country runner, and it's truly one of the very best teams of the school. So congratulations. My comment tonight concerns the proposed levy. First, a little publicized fact. D200 receives approximately $3.5 million more in state funding annually than just a few years ago. These additional dollars should be used to reduce the levy, lessening the tax burden on taxpayers, rather than stockpiling them in the cash reserve. Second, there is no reason for D200 to take new construction or new property taxes this year or any other year, as this construction adds few, if any, new students to the school and adds little to no cost to OPRF due to economies of scale in the one school building district with 3,400 students. Yet D200 routinely takes new construction dollars every year just because it can, not because it needs these tax dollars. This action can be viewed as a tax grab. If D200, as well as our other taxing bodies, don't tack on new construction to their respective levies, it would result in a reduction in the tax burden for taxpayers. The levy memo on the school's website states that, quote, the Community Finance Committee recommended levying at a range of 3% to 3.5% plus new property, end quote. But that's false. There was no discussion regarding new property taxes at recent CFC meetings. There was, however, consensus from the CFC that D200 should only levy for what it needs and should not levy to add to its already excessive cash reserve. Based on the 5-year projection chart updated on October 31st, that's exactly what D200's proposed levy this year and over the next few years would do, resulting in 10 to 12 million in surplus dollars annually. I urge the board to set a precedent tonight and not take new construction dollars. D200 should only levy for its operational needs and should not levy to add to its mountainous cash reserve, as it makes the board unaccountable to taxpayers on spending, and that's unacceptable. Thank you, and happy holidays.
Thank you. So that concludes, are there any other comments for
No, that
the?
concludes for tonight.
Okay, so at 8:04 PM, I now close this public hearing. Which allows us to now, we have the consent agenda. Before I read all the items, are there any elements of the consent agenda that anyone would like to have pulled? Okay, so I move to approve the consent items as follows. A, approval of the open and closed minutes of November 17 and December 1, 2022, and declaration that the audio tapes of the closed session minutes of April 2021 be destroyed. B, personnel recommendations, including new hires, assignment changes, transfers, resignations, and leaves of absence as presented. C, approval of the Board of Education meeting dates for the 2023 school year. D, approval of our Cardonics master schedule software for 1 year at a cost of $30,000. E, approval of Ms. Andrea Newman, interim executive director of special ed, being named the DuPage West Cook Board D200 voting member. F, approval of the October 2022 Treasury Report. G, approval of the October 2022 monthly financials. H, approval of the following donations. Nancy Sullivan onto two OPRF students. Lucas and Isabella Rock made a monetary donation to the food service department for those students who cannot afford to purchase a meal. I, approval of December 2022 check disbursements and financial resolutions as presented. And J, approval of the Hyatt Regency Chicago contract for prom 2023 for a minimum cost of $62,400. This cost is fully funded by student tickets and no profit is made from it.
Second.
Okay, may we have a roll?
Mr. Arkin,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Spivey,
Yes.
Dr. Maharaj,
Yes.
Mr. Powski.
Yes. Motion passes. And we now proceed to our action items, of which there are two. First action item, I move to approve the 2022 tax levy at 3.5% CPI plus new construction at 0.46% for an overall increase of 3.96%.
Second.
Second. Okay. Discussion. Any comments?
Just to maybe reiterate or clarify, this was the recommendation of the CSC.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes, so I'm gonna, okay,
Yeah, I'll just say just recap.
I'll just make a recap. So yes, the CFC did make a recommendation that included as it was stated, 3 to 3.5%. And in the recommendation were a set of assumptions. Included in that set of assumptions was the including the new property tax. So it was in that, in what was there. There wasn't discussion of every assumption, but it was what the committee reviewed and presented their input on. So that was from the CFC. I don't know, Kareem, did I? Okay. This is where I'm going to play historian in just a brief minute, because this is my 10th levy. And is that, yeah, 10. And it is the 9th that has been without taking the full potential of the levy, I believe. The only one I think that was the full was last year, which was a 1% CPI. And last year we did forego other opportunities such as, what do they call that? The recovery opportunity for those to offset where property taxes are challenged. So I would say that based on that, and after a prior history, it has been, I'm pleased to see that this board has continued to look at this and say, what do we need? We recognize we did have a rather healthy fund balance 10 years ago, and through the guidance of committee have put in place action that have whittled it down. Our fund balance actually at the end of October was at $73 million, which is clearly the lowest it's been in a while. A little bit of, some of that is due to the timing of taxes, but it is following a plan that has been outlined. And so our job as a board is to make sure that we meet the needs of our students while recognizing the burden that we have on our taxpayers. It's trying to balance that, and the tax to the max mentality has been out the door, and is that was the standard. That was the every year way it was done prior to my experience. So I compliment my fellow board members over that duration, and this recommendation I think is consistent with that, and those are my 2 cents. So with that said, may we please have a roll call?
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Spivey,
Yes.
Dr. Maharaj,
Yes.
Mr. Arkin,
Yes.
and Mr. Costi.
Yes, it passes 6-0. And our next action item is I move to approve changes to policy 8.80, gifts to the district as presented.
Second.
And discussion. I think this one was discussed fairly extensively at the committee of the whole, so if all are good, we may, I ask for a roll call. I don't see anything.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Spivey,
Yes.
Dr. Maharaj,
Yes.
Mr. Arkin,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
and Mr. Costi.
Yes. So the motion passes 6-0, and we now move to our discussion topic, which is the state of the district. Dr. Johnson.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kowski. If we could bring up the second attachment as a presentation here, the state of the district intro. And I'm gonna move to this to give some high-level context and then open it up for discussion for the board. If we could. Fabulous, thank you. Let's see if my clicker here works. Maybe not. So I may need you just to kind of slide through the things for me again. That's just for efficiency's sake. So if you could go to the next one, that'd be great. I'll just say before we go into the specific slides here that every year the school district brings forward at least the information from the school report card that is relative to, in this case now, is in terms of summative designations from the state of Illinois, from the Illinois State Board. Additionally, in this district, we have opted to link up the accountability that comes with us through the state of Illinois with policy 615, which we actually discussed at our committee meeting just 2 weeks ago. And so this includes a comprised list of 10 indicators about the academic health of the school district. And I'm going to pause for a minute here until
Please, thank
we
you.
have this slide show up, okay?
Thank you. Okay. All right, great.
Are we good? Okay, thank you very much. So I just want to point out that, as we've mentioned before, that the state has 4 different categories for how the summative designation falls: exemplary, commendable, targeted support, and comprehensive support. Back the last time the state gave the designation was in 2019, and OPRF's designation was commendable. As we've noted in previous board meetings, we're really proud of the fact that for the first time with this year's state report card, OPRF fell in the exemplary range, which generally means that the state falls within the 10%, the top 10% of high schools in the state, without any significant disparities in its subgroups, falling within the bottom 10% of the state. And I'm going to talk about those criteria a little bit more thoroughly. If you could slide to the next slide, you will see what the state indicators are.
Yeah, this is not working.
Problem with your, there we go, cool. And so here's what you see: graduation rate, chronic absenteeism, the percentage of students, 9th graders who are on track, how students are performing as far as math proficiency and English language arts proficiency is determined, is according to the SAT. How the percentage of our students really who complete the climate survey, that's really a participation metric. But we'll talk a little bit more about that in this presentation as well. That's the 5 essential survey that our students fill out each spring. And then the state has also added 2 other indicators. For this past school year, the ISA, the Illinois Science Assessment, counted as 5% of the overall school designation, but only in terms of participation, not in terms of evaluating the scores themselves. And finally, there's a category of English language learners' progress towards proficiency, and that's 5%. We do not have a large enough population who fall in that category for that to be a subgroup that affects our center designation at the school. The next slide is what I already referred to just a moment ago. This is the kind of the combination of the various indicators that result from the blending of policy 615 and the state framework. You see them all listed here. The final 3 are what are really added: 9th graders on track, advanced placement, course enrollment and scores, and finally disciplinary infractions, which were presented a few board meetings ago earlier this semester. Before I turn this over for discussion, on the next slide, I just want to highlight some significant areas of improvement that really are those that have been most influential in why the district was able to fall into the exemplary status this past school year. Number one, we saw our graduation rate move up a little bit from where it was before prior, during the pandemic. That's definitely a good sign. Chronic absenteeism is something that has been noted earlier in some communications we've sent out to the community regarding our student performance last school year, and the improvements that we saw there is really a significant reason why we saw that shift as well. It's something that we continue to monitor, and there's a lot of information about that in the report. Ninth graders on track is something that really moved back to pre-pandemic levels. This really is a testament to the fact, the simple fact that being in person and learning with human beings in a room and a teacher who's physically in front of you matters an awful lot. And it particularly matters for freshmen when they're coming into a high school. And so we're thrilled to see those numbers improve over this past school year. We also saw an improvement on the SAT math achievement. This is not only in some specific areas, but I want to specifically point out that we saw improvements for our African American students on the SAT math achievement. Certainly not where the district wants this to be for the long haul, but any year where you see improvements is a positive sign and something to build on. But of course, the fact that we've fallen in this top 10% range is a good thing. But it's nothing to say, okay, we've arrived. This is the destination we want to be at, and there's nowhere else to go. We have a lot of areas that we need to focus on as a school district in a variety of different indicators, and I'm highlighting some of them here, the details of which are in the attached report that I know the board has seen. First of all, overall student achievement on the SAT, evidence-based reading and writing and math, is something that while we've seen some positive signs with these numbers, it is absolutely not where we need it to be. The gaps, particularly between our white students and our students of color, simply is one that we've had a focus on for quite a while to improve, and it will and does remain a focus of ours. Overall, too, we've seen that this is in some ways the most lagging indicator of a school district coming out from behind the pandemic. In the sense that across the state, you continue to see lower scores than what we saw prior to the pandemic on the SAT, whether you're talking about EBRW or math. We've seen some significant boosts. I talked about ninth graders on track earlier. We'll talk about AP in a little while here, where you saw those moving really back to where we were prior to the pandemic. But the SAT has been much more lagging across the state, and OPR has not been immune to that. That has to be a continued focus of ours moving forward. There's a lot of conversation, of course, in education circles about the value of the SAT, whether the SAT should be something that is equitable, whether it's a good measure of student learning and achievement for a high school curriculum. The simple truth is the SAT, of course, also is for our students a currency. It matters for their applications to college. And so it is right, of course, that we focus on this while we understand that it's no indicator here is necessarily a perfect measure of how a student is performing. As we move forward too, our ninth grade curriculum and supports will continue to be a focus of ours. While we've seen these improvements, we still have gaps in who and how our students are performing in ninth grade and where some of those struggles are. We've talked about that in recent presentations to the board, and we're going to continue to do that. I'll talk more about kind of the flight of presentations and reports we will be giving in the next calendar year to help illustrate that. We've also talked about student behavior and attendance with the implementation of our behavior education plan and some of our SEL supports. We've seen, kind of a mix here. We only have one baseline kind of data of how our students have performed with the new behavior education plan. The flip side, last year we saw some improvements of attendance, and so we need to continue to monitor how that BEP is serving our students, and also how our students are doing as far as attendance is concerned. This is something that I know in recent weeks in particular, as we've gone into kind of the waning weeks and months of the fall semester, fatigue is setting in, and we have begun to see signs that attendance is something that needs really direct attention as we move forward. And I know that Principal Parker, who is unable to be here tonight, is focusing on really improving and maintaining quality attendance as we move into second semester. Last semester, we also talked, last spring semester, we also talked a lot about our post-secondary preparation, whether it's college career pathways, dual credit, and our advanced placement programs. As the report knows, this has been a focus of ours, increasing our dual credit enrollments and increasing success of our students in our AP programs. And it will continue to be exactly that. Advanced placement in particular last year was a really solid year for OPRF. We had a number of classes that had both, in fact, over the past 7 years, we've had the highest number of classes this past school year that we've ever had that had both their highest enrollment and their highest average score on the ACT, which coming right out of the pandemic is something that I know our students and families should be proud of, and I'm positive our teachers who have been teaching those courses are exceptionally proud of. That didn't have to happen, and it happened because of the quality work here last year with our teachers and students in person, in classrooms, in these places. That's great. But we also have areas that we need to continue to focus on. We talk about these positive growths and the challenges that we still face in student learning, a continued focus on collaboration, professional development, instructional leaders in particular. These are leverage points that matters for our students. And it is something that our 5 essential survey data tells us is an indicator that needs attention. It's simply not where we want it to be in these areas. We've talked directly with our teachers about this in various settings, and it is a continued area of focus. So if we could go to the next slide, thank you for anticipating me there. This is in sync with the conversation we had 2 weeks ago with policy 615. It's also somewhat parallel to the approach we took a year ago when we named different programs that we wanted to update the board on. In that case, a year ago, it was only during spring semester of 22. What we are talking about here is kind of a curriculum, if you will, of reports that we want to make sure that we bring to the board over the next 12 months. So from January to December of next school year until we deliver this report again, these are not the only things, of course, that we might bring forward, the only programs that we provide reports for, but these are ones that we are committing to certainly and are open up for discussion here. Information that we want to make sure we are updating the community and the school board on as far as how these efforts specifically are performing as far as kind of closing achievement gaps for our students and improving the quality of learning for all students here. So that's a high-level overview of what's in this report. There's a lot of data that's provided here, some of which is available, of course, on the school report card. There's more information on the school report card, of course, that's provided here. The school report card provides a wealth of data, only some of which is useful as a summative designation, and that's why we've selected what we have for this report. So with that said, I'll stop and open it up for any discussions. I'll also note, actually, in case there are any questions, specifically Kristen McKee, who our coordinator of voting analytics is on the call as well if necessary.
Okay, board members, questions, comments?
Dr. Johnson, thank you for a very thorough report. As always, the same sort of disappointing results in terms of our racial breakdown and disparities between white and Black students exist. I would love to see more progress. I know that this is something that we've been working on for as long as I've been on this board and for longer than that. So I don't know if you have any thoughts about what improvements we've seen in those specific, I'm thinking really of the reading and the writing, but also in math too, of course. Like, do you have any specific anything specifically that you wanted to speak to about those in particular, or?
You know, our areas of focus as far as reading and math are concerned are things that the board largely is aware of. And so I would draw our attention to those efforts that have been recently named. I'll highlight first the math curriculum, right? Despite the fact that we've seen some improvements in some of our math scores, particularly for African American students last school year, and that bucks a bit of a statewide trend. Certainly that's nowhere near where we want that to be. And the math presentation that we gave to the board, Dr. Fiorenza and the math division chair, Dr. Julie Fry, and several math students provided last October is our effort to go after that pretty directly, specifically focusing on making sure that all of our students have access as quickly as possible to the type of math content that they're going to experience on the SAT. I mean, these are changes that, despite the fact that this has been a focus, for several years at OPRF, the math curriculum as it existed for the past few years, other than really how it was affected from the pandemic, is really the same in a lot of ways that it had been several years before that, right? So the curricular changes that are and this is true if in the evidence-based reading and writing, right? Those areas where our students are reading and writing history and English classes and so on. The curricular changes in those areas, it's not a surprise, of course, that we haven't seen the effects of that work on these scores, because we've just begun to make those changes. And so the last thing anybody wants when we see this is patience, but the state of Illinois, going back in the early days of NCLB, really a lot of high schools, a lot of school districts across the board really focused on singular kind of Band-Aid approaches, singular programming approaches, right, to how to improve scores on an assessment. And I think appropriately, the focus here is more holistic on the overall curriculum and the quality of student learning across the board. And unfortunately, as unsatisfying as that may be, we know that the pop shot little fixes don't work, and we need to take an approach that is more holistic and is going to roll in over time. So
just to follow up on my own question, so in terms of conversations with District 97 and District 90 as well, obviously some of this learning well predates the days that they entered this building, right? So have there been any conversations with either of the theater districts yet around looking at some of the data that we can now access to see, trends or ways that we can kind of push down a little bit, maybe into the elementary schools and improve the articulation of the schools?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, I'm going to ask Dr. Fiorenza to come up if you could, because I know you have been engaged in this, maybe even today, if I recall our conversation, or yesterday perhaps, was the most recent conversation. But in short, yes, these are conversations that we know are critically important. So, and we spoke to a little bit that when that curriculum. So, I don't know if you want to speak to some of the collaborations.
So we have been in collaboration with both District 90 and 97, dating back to our curriculum writing with the math. So we've invited both districts. 97 was able to be here twice now for both of our curriculum writing opportunities in the fall. We know that that's going to help because those teachers from 97 are taking that information back. They're also shedding some light on things for us that might help us to tailor our curriculum and our instructional opportunities to those students better. I'm personally meeting once a month now with Ms. Hawley and Ms. Lofton, Dr. Lofton, from 90 and 97, to start having some conversation, not just about how the three of us can support and shift and change and do things together, but also to collaborate a little bit more, bring our teachers together more, just as you alluded to previously. I think that's a good idea. We think that's a good idea. And so really bringing our teachers together to have those conversations is going to benefit our students. I think we're doing the right thing. We're shifting to that integrated math. We're really going to focus on our pre-algebra and algebra students. I think that 90 and 97 are working very hard as well. And so bringing our teams together and having as much conversation and collaboration as we can, not just around the curriculum, but also around intervention strategies, right? So we're going to get there. But as Dr. Johnson said, we just started the integrated math process. And so it's going to take us a little bit of time, but I think everybody from 90, 97 and definitely from 200 are at the table and interested in doing that work. So I think we'll see some benefits.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Questions?
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, thank you for this report. It's illuminating, and I think it's obviously being named an exemplary school. It is a great achievement. However, it's, the benchmarking is against moving targets as well, because it's benchmarked against other school districts.
That's
not necessarily against a finite metric.
That's right,
So
there's no
as they-
target to hit.
Right, so as they improve, we need to keep it that far ahead of them. Like our cross-country guys. So, I look forward especially to this series of reports that are going to be coming annually. And as soon as we can get the schedule, it would be nice to know exactly when we can expect, each report. Because, we do get, from time to time, we get questions and things like, well, that's gonna be at this board meeting or that board meeting. Obviously, as Sarah spoke about, the disparities between our students of color and other students is still troubling. And progress has been very slow. I'll be very interested to see what happens with the results of the new curriculum after this first semester and after the school year, because I think that there are some measures that we can look at that will give us some indications. Things like the actual demographics of our classrooms, our test scores, our actual, taking a look at the demographics of our students who move on from freshman year single curriculum, single on-year curriculum to going ahead and taking honors classes as sophomores and juniors and seniors. I think those are things that'll pop up right away. Obviously, numbers of kids that are enrolled in AP classes, how many tests they're taking, how they're doing the tests, how many honors grades are actually given. I think there's a lot of data we'll be able to take a look at in relatively short order. That won't give us the overall picture, but it'll give us some indications.
I mean, Sarah and Fred, sorry, long.
Fred.
Almost called you Frank, like, really kind of said, so I appreciate the data. I'm glad that we're at that status, and but as I think about, and this has been talked about the past years I've been on this board, it's about particularly Black and brown students, particularly Black students we're talking about.
Right.
Is it's not just the curriculum you need to kind of look at. So that's the quantitative part. But the qualitative, I'll be curious to know what is the qualitative part of figuring out why this is happening. So it's not capacity, right, of able to learn, it's other factors, right? So Dr. Parker's in here, so I know that's more of her area, and I won't try to drag Laura into it for this, not what you but still, I know we all think about and talk about it, so I'm not sure how the report, not this report, but the reports we're mentioning, could then dig into that part. Because we just try to look at a curriculum, it's going to be a way to kind of get prepared. We're missing the mark for the actual total picture of what's happening holistically. So I'd be curious to know, like, what's the plan there, and how we look at that, and how we measure that in a different way. It's not as accurate as quantitative data.
Yeah, I just want to do my best, and since we're talking about it right now, if we can define it, we can also follow up later on in the conversation, but of course, we're talking about mental health, we're talking about social, emotional health, we're talking about culture, climate of the school overall, right? These are the types of things we're talking about.
Correct, yeah.
All right, thank you.
That's it.
Great. I had a couple questions or things that I'd like to bring forward. First, a couple comments, which is, it is great to see, positive achievements where they've been noted, and recognizing that there still are areas, and you've hit it, that we need to be addressing, and I think my fellow board members have kind of raised that. When I did a little bit of a deeper dive into the state report card, I just want to call two items forth. Dr. Johnson, you said being in person with a teacher means a lot. And when I looked at the data, we see that our attendance, in attendance of students it means a lot such that we measure it. But when we look at teacher attendance, we see that we had 38% of our teachers with 62. Yes, 60. We had a high percentage of our teachers with greater than 10 absences. So that means that we don't have students with a teacher. And it's a topic I've raised, and there's been question about data, but we continue to seem to be lagging or in that area. And if we say having, and we know through the pandemic, having that student teacher interface is important, I would like to know what our plan is to address that. I mean, initially it was being addressed as a data issue, but I think it's not a data issue from what, it's a real opportunity. So that's an ask. And the second one is, again, having studied this data for decades or for a decade, Fred, your decade. When you look at it baffles me that the data says that our class size has gone from 18 to 23.5 over a 5-year period. That's what the data says. I know that our student enrollment in that period is flat. Okay, I know that we have not reduced staff at all, and we've actually increased staff slightly. So I know there's an answer, but for those who are out there and looking at the data, they're saying, oh, we're making our classes bigger, we're putting less resources to it. And I'd like to hear the answer to that.
Yeah, so the state calculates class size in a way that focuses on 2 periods. They pull 2 periods from a class schedule. They take a look at all the core classes that are within those 2 periods, students who are in those classes, and then determines their average. That's how they do it across the state. And so it's not necessarily an incredibly detailed analysis that gives you an idea for an individual school. It's probably something that across the entire state kind of works out, right? For giving you a general picture. I don't know when you aggregate those numbers up, kind of if it's consistent, but if you want to get a feel for overall class size in the school, like what is the student's lived experience? Most importantly, we should be taking a look at all of our classes, right? I mean, an average kid, periods 1 through 8, what are they experiencing? Perhaps we exclude lunch. That really is a better feel for class size. So you're right on the first hand, our student population is really close to what it was several years ago. Our FTE has increased somewhat during that time. That has increased in terms of kind of supports and some of those areas that aren't specifically part of how the state calculates overall class size. So that's just really what it is. And so it's something that we're watching, but we do have things that we need to focus on as far as our master schedule. We have questions, I suppose, going into next school year as we develop it, but it's not something that is of overall great concern for us. And I want to also highlight, to illustrate that fact, Dr. Fiorenza advocated for about a year ago, and then we came into March and you advocated for it again and asked the board to approve a little bit of an increase in FTE so that we could keep class size for our freshman classes at 25 or lower. And we've done exactly that for those classes. And so that's kind of on one level an indicator of what the lived students' experience is as far as class size is concerned. The state needs a way to calculate class size, and this is kind of the results of how it does that across schools that are very different, from one to the other. So perhaps
I guess both my questions dealt with that student to teacher interface and how many and what is it. So I want to make sure that as the commitment has been to make sure we can maximize that, and the data is in both of these areas doesn't really tell this, well, in this area, it doesn't tell the story, which is concerning. So, okay, that were my questions.
Marianne, I think it's a question.
Okay, Marianne?
Hi. Okay. So I had a couple of points. I want to say congrats on the exemplary thing. And I mean, I do say congrats, but given that it's benchmarking against other schools, it has to raise the question of like, is it that we got better, or is it that other schools did not do as well coping with the pandemic, for example, because they were, potentially under-resourced, weren't able to get Wi-Fi to students in lower income communities, et cetera. And so I guess what I'm saying is that when we look towards improvements, I'm most interested in comparing us to our own data and specifically our pre-pandemic data. So I would like to see us looking at, okay, 5 years ago, where were we, and how do we compare to that now? That was one point. I'll just leave that there. The second, I had three things. The second thing was, I know that I just did final grades at UIC, and we're in person. And even so, I would say a percentage of my students are not back to pre-pandemic status, even though we're in person. And some of them are dealing with stuff at home, economic issues, needing to work, et cetera, so on. I don't know what of those factors are affecting our high school students, if any. But I don't know, I guess we still have to we're not quite out of the woods yet. I know I sound like a broken drum. I feel like I've been saying this over and over, but I wish we were out of the woods, but I just don't think we're quite there, especially given, as Tom pointed out, we've had a lot of teacher absences, and that's not surprising given that we're heading into where we've had ongoing COVID and then flu and RSV, and please everybody get your flu shots. They're super effective this year against the variant that's out there. So like you are going to regret not getting them if you catch the flu, because it's a bad flu, but the shot works really well this time around. Sorry, it's a little segue. But I guess I would say we're seeing at UIC from talking to administration there, sometimes up to a quarter of staff out at various points during the semester from illness. So I'm hoping that's going to improve. I'm not quite sure what we can do to address that. I'm guessing going back to masking is going to be super unpopular, and I can't really think of anything else that would reduce transmission of these kind of common cold, et cetera, type illnesses. So I don't know, but we may just have to wait it out for a couple of months, but just factor that in when you're looking at the data. And then my third point is a completely different point. And I just wanted to be sure this was on the administration's radar. About 3 weeks ago, this Chat GPT thing started to be a big deal. And I don't know, this is the AI thing that you can feed it a prompt, like, write a 5-page essay in the style of whomever. And it churns out something that is, especially on a quick read, shockingly good, like shockingly good. So I know at the college level, a lot of the English faculty are having hard conversations about, well, if we can't rely on essays as a way of assessing our students anymore, what are we going to use for English assessment going forward? And you can't just do, some people will want to do things like, oh, well, we'll go back to blue books and in-class exams, but there are disability concerns with that, for example, right? And there are mental health concerns and so on. So I don't think that's going to be a good solution. So I would like to just be sure that administration has this on their radar and has I mean, essentially right now we're all at the research stage and kind of trying to figure out what English and I guess all the humanities assessment is going to look like if we can, if it's going to be so easy for students to generate essays that look like they've written them. So yeah, it's and I'm not sure quite how this all plays out at the high school level. I don't know how many, at home essays they're writing. I don't know where that factors in, but I'm assuming for the AP classes, that'll be something they're doing. So, all right, Greg, I don't know if you want to address any of that, but fine if not.
Yeah, so actually I'll address all three very briefly. First, if there's any data that you wanted to see relative to these indicators that does compare us to ourselves, as you suggested, that is not here in the report, please let me know. I'll be happy to do what I can there. Because I think in most of the indicators, if not all, we've attempted to do that. Perhaps not in a specific area or something. So please let me know. The second point, I'll just say generally, I appreciate that very much. A reminder that we are not out of the pandemic and the lingering effects of respiratory illnesses that are not specifically COVID are spiking right now. I appreciate that very much. I think that's a fair reminder. I think we will continue to see lagging indicators, and we're on that last point. Ironically, yes, I'm smiling because Kristen McKee, who's on this phone, she actually emailed that same information to me that you referenced a few weeks ago. There was, I believe, an article in the Atlantic that spoke to that as well. So I appreciate the heads up about that. Certainly is something to be aware of as it'll affect classroom outlook, what kids create, moving forward. And I speaking of comparing ourselves to earlier data, I want to go back to Tom's point earlier, just really quickly, to point out when we're talking about class size and averages, and how we compare to previous years. Pre-pandemic, so yes, in 17, if you go all the way back, it's in the teens class size. But we've been pretty consistent from 2019 to present with class size as far as state reporting is concerned. All have been right around that 23, range. And so that is a good thing to see. So anyway, just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Okay. I think that covers the topic. Yeah. Our last item is informational, which is the engineering energy services live reverse auction results. So anything on that? I'm gonna give my, I think, my 2 cents, the board had approved the kind of the width to which the administration could go. I do think it's positive that we're looking at ways to maintain our costs. This is a commitment to buying a green electricity through Rex, thank you. I wish that we would be a little shorter in the scope that we did it, so that we could be able to move into a more solar-based, community-based type approach, but we still have a lot of work to do in that. So we need to make sure that what we're doing continues to move us in the direction of what our sustainability commitments are. This is, in that direction, but I think we can do it.
Thank you.
Right. And with that, our next, are there any updates on any of the committees in terms of any meetings that members would like to share. I can tell you there's been no finance committee update since then. Anyone have anything?
I'm sorry, I could not make the IGov meeting, so I was counting on Ralph being here tonight to give the update on that, so I'm afraid I don't have an update.
Okay.
I can note that Apple didn't really, only staff showed up, so we didn't really meet. Applause, did a great job with the Prism show, so congrats to them. And as Greg mentioned earlier in the meeting for the sorry, I'm blanking on the name of the other committee I'm on, the one that
Community Council.
Community Council. Thank you. We met briefly, did not have quorum, and adjourned to go to Prisms, where many of our community council members were already attending because they had kids in the show, and I got a chance to stay for about 45 minutes, and it was amazing. And I have already put it in my calendar that I want us to do date night there next year, so I'm going to be jumping on those tickets. So those are my reports.
Thank you. Okay, any future agenda items? Okay, we may now recess because we're not going to adjourn yet, and we're recessing to resume and complete our closed session. There will be no follow-up open session. We will just be completing closed session and then closing out the meeting. So there's nothing to be voted on, there's nothing to be discussed, etc. So anybody who wants to stay around for it,
I'll stay.
Say goodnight.
yeah. Okay.
This one takes. Take care, everybody.
Yeah, we're not adjourning yet.
I think this is my fault we're saying longer.
Yeah.
I think it is. It is.
Not a fault.
Nobody.
Okay, we are back in open session. Does anyone have anything they'd like to do?
Say goodnight.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
All opposed? The ayes have it. We are closed.
Good night, Marianne.
Good night.
Night. Take care, guys.